We're going to fans of a high-quality Bruins team and getting higher very, very soon. We're going to talk about some draft stuff. We're going to talk about the top 10 prospects and a little bit about what I think the Bruins should do with the 7th overall pick. I wanted to wait till a little closer to the draft. I know a lot of you have a understanding of many of these picks, but we're just going to kind of chat, and I'd love to see your takes down below. The plan is to do a live stream during the first round of the draft. Andrew from the Short Shift should be joining me for that. And then that will be right before I fly up to Boston for a week, because we're going to be there for the development camp just like last year. I am going to let you guys know what night we'll be out on the town to meet up and grab drinks with whoever wants to come out and say hello. I think that would be fun. It's been fun in the past. No reason not to think it wouldn't be fun this time. Let's talk about some happy hockey stuff, shall we? The Panthers fans are living in the past. That's over. Cup's gone. Who cares? I am having fun watching Marchand have a good time. The thank you Boston chants are funny. I don't know. I don't know any Boston fans that are getting upset about it because the chants make all the sense in the world. And I think Panthers fans are like, this is a gotcha. And I'm like, no, Marchand asked to go there, and so we found a deal that allowed him to go there. The Panthers knew he wanted to go there. This was just another Taylor Hall situation where you're trading somebody 50 cents on the dollar, and then Marchand won the cup, which is great. We're not good for Marchand. I'm not sitting here upset about that. I'm pretty pumped for the guy. I know some of you have really soured on Marchand, and I know there's certainly reasons for that. But at the end of the day, I will always lean on the fact that he gave up everything he could while playing for the Bruins on the ice. He was just that guy. He had that dog in him. My frustrations with Marchand come from some of the off-the-ice stuff, some of the leadership stuff, some of the conversations about how he reacted to prospects being called up and the maneuvering of the team. It just sounds like he had a lot more say than he should have. And I don't really blame Marchand that much for it the more I think about it, because he is a player who wants to win. And he, as a player, saw the route for him winning with the most veteran talent around him. We have seen this with the NBA over and over again, that players don't make great personnel decisions because they're way too close to these guys. And there's just too much humanity that comes out there, where if you're a GM, you should be moving things more like pieces on a chessboard. Which sounds cold and whatnot, but I want the GM running the team and not a player. But if a player's running the team, that's the GM's fault, not the players. So anyway, that's a whole kind of rant here, but I'm not upset that Marchand's winning the cup. I find it odd that the thank you Boston is supposed to be a gotcha, because I'm kind of like, you're welcome. Mixed in with a little bit of ugh. But still, you're welcome. All right, so I'll be honest, it's a little off there. Let's talk a little bit about the 7th overall pick that the Boston Bruins have, which is very exciting because this draft is really interesting. And it's really scary, too. I want to be very clear about something. Because this is going to be a retool from Sweeney's perspective, I don't think what the angle here is for the Bruins to be excellent next year. I think this is a 2-year project. They're hoping they have one more down year and then they're back to business as usual, which is a whole different conversation than we're really going to have right now. But I'm saying that because if they were to trade that 7th overall pick for immediate help, I am super down with that if the value is where it needs to be. I know that everyone jumped all over this whole Peugeot deal with the 7th overall being involved with the Islanders. If that happens, I'm just going to officially be out on Sweeney. I'm going to be done. I'm usually a Sweeney defender. I've defended him through a lot of this year. Obviously, I've crushed him for the offseason we had last year, but I thought the deadline moves were really good and all that kind of stuff. But if they were to move a 7th overall for Peugeot and that it basically be a 1-for-1 swap there, then I would put my head through a wall. That would be ridiculous and stupid. That would be stupid is what it would be. But if they do trade it for immediate help that is impactful, then I'm super down. And to be clear, that rumor about Peugeot and the 7th overall is coming from a source that I don't consider a healthy hockey source. I'm not going to name the person because I feel like that's just rude, but I would not take a lot of that. I think the Islanders are probably talking to Sweeney. I would assume he's talking to a lot of teams. but I would not assume that the 7th overall and Peugeot are actually linked in a deal. It wasn't a source that I usually trust. But I would be comfortable with trading it. I would not be comfortable with trading it and something else to move up in the draft. And let's explain why. Because this draft seems to be 2 top players, followed by 5 in kind of a second tier, and then everybody else. The question you have to ask yourself is that actually true? Or is this just the way I, as a Bruins fan, want to see it, because that still keeps the Bruins in that second tier, that second group there? Or is it I'm being fed so much information that's Bruins-centric that everything's going to be colored in a way where we're still getting one of the top picks, that the cutoff line is right behind us, not right before it? I think I do enough of research that is on a national level where I don't feel like that's tricking me, that like, oh, the Bruins are part of that second group. If anything, my bet would be that there probably is a third group after pick like 5. And I think I'm just being a little biased as a Bruins fan. I think that's where it's coming from. But even so, with me hoping that it's really a 2-tier draft and the Bruins are still part of it, there are no guarantees in this draft. And that has been pretty well echoed by most scouts across the league, that it is a draft with a clear number 1, a couple of guys that you feel really, really good about, and then a few that have a ceiling that you can be very excited about, but they all have different reasoning for being a... more so than ever, it does feel like a draft where in that top 7, top 10 range, you are walking away, or multiple teams are walking away not knowing that they have completely misread this player, and they're not going to equate to much. Now, I know in most drafts, you're going to see that somewhere up at the top, but this just feels like a year really for it. We're not going to walk away from this draft going, oh my gosh, this is an all-timer. Like, everyone in the top 10 is going to be great. Like, I just don't see it. So, real quickly, I've got 10 names for you. We're going to break them down one by one, but we're going to kind of move quickly through the top 3. Even though I think the top tier is really just 2 guys, there's a third one who I cannot imagine in my wildest dreams will be available at number 7. So there's 3 guys that just feel like there's no chance they're going to be there. At number 1, we have Matthew Schaefer. We've all heard this name. He's a left-handed defenseman. He's 6'1", 185 pounds, 17 years old. Spent most of the year injured, only played 17 games in the regular season, but 7 goals, 15 assists with the Otters in the OHL. He's a pretty much unanimous choice for number 1, though the idea of the Islanders jumping for Haggins, who is kind of a hometown kid, is fun. It's just not likely. I think Schaefer's the easy pick here. Now, I wouldn't say Schaefer is expected to be a McCarr or a Hughes type exactly, but he is expected to be a clear-cut number 1 defenseman in the NHL, maybe even one of those kind of franchise-defining defensemen. He does everything super well. He's great in transition, excellent skating in general. He can swiftly create turnovers and fast breaks. He has very active hands. He's a clever defender when it calls for it, but he can break opponents down with more of a gritty style as well. Kind of guy that you would trust in every situation. Doesn't shy away from contact, although I wouldn't say he's overly physical. He is willing to take a hit to make a play, but he's just a kind of guy who should be hugely impactful on both ends of the ice. The Bruins aren't worried about Schaefer, though, because he won't be available at 7. The furthest I can see him falling is 3, and that would feel like a precipitous drop. He's pretty unanimously number 1. At number 2, we have Michael Misa, lefty center, 6 feet tall, 185 pounds, 18 years old, had 65 games played in the OHL last year, 62 goals, 72 assists. He had 4 games played, 2 goals, 1 assist, and a -10 in the playoffs. This is about skating, and skating, and skating, and skating. There's a lot to love about Misa, don't get me wrong, but his skating, his edge work, it just seems to be the true reason that he's listed as high as he is. Obviously, he shot up draft boards throughout the year as the goals and the points just kept coming. He had good years before this, but this was truly a breakout year. Gaudy point totals are pretty typical in the OHL, but these are impressive even for those numbers, or those standards, I should say. But what I really, really like about Misa is his off-puck movement. What's a good comparison for him here? I don't know why. I'm struggling to do NHL comparisons, but we're going to give an NBA one. He's like a Steph Curry type away from the puck. Like, he's gifted and intelligent and all that kind of stuff, but he also puts in that exhausting work to be a nightmare to cover defensively. When he's away from the puck, he's not standing in the circle waiting for a feed so he can do... No, he is creating space in some way or another, or drifting out of the sight of defensemen to be that last pass that no one saw coming for the finish. The guy is intelligent with it, but he's relentless. It's got to be the most annoying guy to play against, at least as a defender, because he's just not going to stop moving at all, and you got to follow throughout. There is an interesting amount of talk about his goal scoring not translating well to the NHL level, which I can kind of see what they're talking about. A lot of his performance, of his goals, come from him breaking away from the defenseman, and it's something that you just won't be able to do as consistently at the next level. A lot of his finish is in tight, so maybe there's some pause about his actual ability to beat a goaltender from distance, but that's a very rare thing to be able to consistently do in the NHL anyway. And that's not even really a knock, because he's still going to be a guy who gets he's still going to score some goals, but he's going to be more of a facilitator at the next level, and that's not a bad thing at all. His ability to create and to get into open space and create dramatic shifts in the defensive coverage with his movement is going to be exactly what any team would want from him. He's going to command a lot of attention from defenders, and it's going to open teammates up for easier finishes. He's going to make the team around him better. Again, this is a player who won't be available at 7. God, do I want him to slip? I think we all do. This would be a slam dunk for the Bruins, but he won't be there. Now, the only other player I'm putting in this absolutely won't be there at 7, even though he's projected as low as 5 or 6 in some boards. And, I mean, oftentimes we give that a variable of 1 or 2 picks, just because no one usually gets it dead on. I'm going with Caleb Denomie. The pronunciation, interesting. He's a lefty center. He's 6'1", he's 180 pounds, 18 years old. 56 games played, 35 goals, 49 assists for 84 points. He went 9 goals, 21 assists for 30 points in 19 games played in the QJMHL playoffs. Those playoff numbers are a huge reason he's this high. I think the last month of hockey really propelled him up. He has been projected as high as number 2 on some draft boards. His point totals throughout the year in the playoffs, obviously impressive. He did play second in points per game in the regular season scoring and first in points per game in the playoffs among players with at least 9 games played. He's excellent on and off the puck. Always understands the play and where it's going, not afraid to go to the net or the dangerous areas, makes his presence known on the boards. He doesn't shy away from anyone. Total pipe dream that he's available at 7, but this would 1000% be my pick. And I feel like I'm jumping on a bandwagon here because a lot of people over the past 6 weeks or so have gotten really excited about this kid, but it's a bandwagon for a reason. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, know I adore hockey IQ. That's something that I just feel you can't teach. The kind of awareness that you need on the ice to be truly a star level talent. It's not something that someone can slowly build up. Like, people get better at it, but you either have franchise level talent in that area or you don't. It's not a fair game. We get it. Genetics. I don't know. This guy has hockey IQ to spare. Determination to make an impact in every zone. He's no slub when it comes to defending, and he has the ability to beat a goaltender clean. It's been a couple years since the Bruins had something like that. And you can't say Pasternak because I said that defensive bit there. I love Denomie. I think there's a chance he becomes the best player out of this draft. But now we're going to talk about 6 different players that might be available at number 7. And I ordered these by how much I want the Bruins to get them, right? Not in the order I think they'll go, but the ones that I'm hoping are there at 7. So I guess this would be the order I think they'd go, because this is basically me saying this is the next best player. At number 4, or number 1, however you want to see this, it's James Haggins. I don't think anyone's super surprised by that. Lefty center, 5'10", 178 pounds, 18 years old. This is where things get really interesting, because at this pick, you have Haggins, who came into the season as the projected number 1 overall pick, right? Before this year happened, it was tanking for Haggins. I forget what the name was, actually. You know, everyone makes up a catchy little thing so that you bottom out for a certain player. I don't know. I don't know what it was for Haggins. He didn't see a cliff dive in his stock through the year, but he certainly has fallen down the draft board more than was initially expected. He had 11 goals and 26 assists in 37 games played at Boston College this year, plus an excellent showing at the World Juniors with 9 points in 7 games. Those are good numbers. Those are impressive numbers as a freshman, but it wasn't exactly what was expected of him given the hype coming into this year. They thought he might be a little more dominant than that. Players of Haggins' size usually can't afford to disappoint in their draft year. And remember, we're using the word disappoint in a sliding scale here. This isn't a bad season by any means. But even if the season was a little disappointing, Haggins is ridiculous with the puck on his stick. He's clever with all his movements. He can handle the puck in any situation. His skating ability pushes him into a rare level when it comes to making defensemen miss and creating scoring opportunities. But he's smaller than most teams would like. Okay. I mean, 5'10", almost 180 pounds. He'll finish right around 5'10" and 190-ish somewhere probably by the time he's a finished product. Hopefully he grows an inch or two. That's possible, right? I don't know. I think what really happens here is he's a couple inches shorter than you'd love as a franchise guy, and you saw him have a year where he didn't quite have the gaudy totals that you wanted, so he starts to slide a little bit behind some of these other bigger names. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that anyway. He isn't great on the boards, and he has a tendency to stay outside of high danger areas when he isn't controlling the play. Immediately, Bruins fans will think of Liesel. Along with a few others who have been criticized by management over and over again for not going to the dirty areas, for the reluctance to get to the middle of the ice, and looking for better scoring opportunities, all this stuff. Now look, it's a valid criticism. It is a valid criticism. I don't want a guy who's afraid of getting his hands dirty, pushing the pace, getting into high danger areas. Totally with you. I just don't feel like the tape actually shows me that. I watch a player whose ability to make plays that no one else on the ice sees while directing defensemen's attention elsewhere works best when he's facilitating play from the blue line or in transition or even on the wall, but he has a little space to make it happen. That's not to say he can't be a play driver, because he also has the ability to make defensemen miss and to go around and create space for himself. Yes, he's not going to be a stalwart in board battles. And no, he's not going to push himself up to the front of the net and be taking those hits looking for a tip on a shot. He's going to be the guy who you're looking for to make the play that creates the goal. And yeah, he's got a pretty good shot as well. I don't buy it. Sometimes the conversation about getting to middle ice and getting to those intense areas are valid because it's a guy who needs to play a role to stay in the NHL. This guy is the role. Like, he is the guy on the ice for these possessions. He shouldn't be standing directly in front of the net. And he's not afraid to go into center ice with the puck. I'm not seeing that at all. I'm confused by that criticism in general. Haggins is a worthwhile pick at 7 for sure. In fact, you'd probably argue that you're getting real value there. I mean, especially considering he was projected number 1 going into this year. I really like it. It feels odd that at a time where all the players projected around him are cementing their status in the top 5 or close to it, Haggins continues to be a name tossed in at the end of these conversations. Maybe it's fatigue because we've talked about him basically all year, but there's a very real chance he's still there for the Bruins. He could go as high as 4. He could go higher, genuinely. Like, again, there's not a lot of consensus with where these picks are going, but he literally might be there at 7. And he would be my first choice for that pick, by far. Yeah, by far, actually. There's a bit of a drop-off behind him, in my opinion. My second favorite pick will be polarizing. And Andrew on the short shift hates it, by the way. But this is where I am. Roger McQueen, righty, center, 6'5", 200 pounds, 18 years old. Now, don't start with, oh, you big body, just gotta get the big bad Bruin. Little guy gross, get the big guy. Like, that's not where I'm at, all right? I do like his size. I like his tenacity. Can't teach that. No, I like a lot about McQueen's game. This has, in my opinion, steal of the draft written all over it. It also has absolute failure written all over it. Like, dropped a bomb on your retool, on your rebuild. Like, if you missed with this one, it hurts. It hurts. Honestly, you miss with this pick at all, and it really hurts. McQueen had 10 goals, 10 assists, in 17 games played in the WHL. Excellent with the puck on his stick and near impossible to knock him off the puck. He's physical in all the right ways. He can win battles all over the ice and has surprising playmaking ability for a player of his size. He takes advantage of the attention he gets by looking off defenders, opening passing lanes for teammates. When he's not involved in the play, he will go to dangerous ice, usually doing what he can to disguise his intent, walking behind the eye lines of the defenders and getting into dangerous ice, hoping for that quick moment of, oh shit, he got behind me. You know what I'm saying. He's able to do that because he has a great understanding of defensive schemes and their soft points, their weaknesses. He has a great shot on top of all of it. Honestly, most of what I've seen from McQueen would suggest a top 5 pick, maybe a top 3 pick. Like, that's how good this guy is. He looks absolutely filthy. The polarizing bit here is his health history. He suffered a fractured vertebrae early in the year last year and was sidelined for most of the season. And when he returned, he ended up with a muscle strain due to not being fully recovered from the fracture in the first place. He says he feels the best he has in 3 years and is completely back to 100%, but of course, he's going to say that. And he plays a very physical style. He's one of those guys where an injury compounds on itself as he continues to put more wear and tear on his body. It is a concern. I'm not acting like it's not a concern. It is absolutely a concern. There is a chance that this guy never reaches the NHL because injuries just completely demolish all of his development, and that's it. That is a legitimate thing that could happen. But at the end of the day, this guy is also a talent that I don't think should be available at 7. I think he has a higher ceiling than Haggins. I think he's right up there with Misa. I don't know if he's exactly like Schaefer level, but I love his game. I really do. If it's between him and another guy that the Bruins have absolutely fallen in love with, then yeah, of course, you go with the guy who's a safer bet. But damn, it is tough to pass on a player with this much talent, with his God-given gifts on top of his physical abilities. It's so hard to walk away from that because you're worried about injury issues. Anyone who plays the style he plays, of course, are going to have concerns about injury regardless. But him just having this back injury, if he falls, I mean, it just feels like someone gets a real steal out of this. People will say it's a reach at 7. I genuinely think people will say this would be a reach. But everything I've seen from him is a top 5 talent. And the concern is his back going to hold up? I don't know. It's tough to say we should take this risk right now. But God, he's one of the few centers in this top 10 that I think will stay a center. I want him. I want him. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But he's my second pick. If Haggins isn't available, I'd look for McQueen. I would. Oh, I'm getting nervous just thinking about it. My number 3 option is Jake OBrien. He's a righty center, 6'1", 170 pounds, 18 years old. He had 32 goals, 66 assists in 66 games played in the OHL. His rise in stock largely depends on his hockey IQ across all 200 feet of ice and his ability to actually execute on those high difficulty plays. So you know I love that. You know I love some hockey IQ. You know I love it. I think this is another case where the hope is his physical attributes don't hold him back. Now, that's a very different conversation between a top 10 pick and a 4th rounder. OBrien has the physical attributes, especially after a couple more years of growth, to be a competitive player at the NHL level. This isn't a conversation like we've had about Lotmels, right? Where we're talking about how he could possibly never reach the NHL because his physical talent isn't at that level, or didn't look to be at that level, and he certainly looks primed to make a push over the next year or two for the NHL, talking about Lotmels. But a top 10 talent where you're worried about their physical attributes, it's not that same thing. Like, the physicality is still there at a baseline player for an NHL player. The question is it there for a top 7 pick? Little different of a conversation. The reason I bring up those physical things are because his skating isn't all that impressive, and he isn't an elusive player exactly, and he can be fairly easy to knock off the puck. In the OHL, he takes his time with plays, often holds the puck longer than line mates as he waits for the right play to appear. He has the puck skill to do that and make defenders miss at times, but that does get harder at the next levels, and I think he's going to have to get a lot better at making a decision quicker as the speed picks up. Now, of course, that's a conversation you can have with any prospect, but the way he pauses and the frequency he pauses with, that's got to get sped up at the next level for sure. The good news is he's a true talent in creation, a classic I make my teammates better kind of guy. His vision, awareness, understanding of the game allow him to impact play at both ends of the ice, even when his skating or physicality aren't enough to get the job done by themselves. The goal totals in the OHL are nice, obviously, but scouts seem to agree that his shot falls short of a high-end NHL scorer. That's not a huge concern for me because OBrien would be considered our next true top-line center and would be more of a high impact facilitator with high impact defensive play mixed in. I would expect him to be very good on special teams, just kind of an all-around great player. A worthwhile pick for the Bruins for sure. I'd have him as the third option behind McQueen, thanks to McQueen's ceiling, and Haggins, thanks to, well, I think Haggins is just across the board a better player. At number 4 or number 7, right? So like all those guys I've already named could go already, and then we're down here with Porter Martin. Martin's also been projected as high as number 2 on some boards as well, so he might go much earlier. But he would be my 4th pick for the Bruins. He's a right winger, 6'2", 208 pounds, 18 years old, 57 games played, 37 goals, 61 assists for 98 points in the OHL this season. He had 74 penalty minutes. He is one of the more polarizing players in the top 10. Martin has the size and offensive skill to look like, well, what the new prototypical playoff player is. He's got a big body that becomes a blender in the offensive zone as he bullies his way through defenders, creates turnovers, which create high danger opportunities. I mean, the physicality is there. And that's something that you love. You see teams that are being successful right now, and a lot of them have that player that just creates havoc in the offensive zone away from the puck, forcing these turnovers and creating this physicality, getting under players' skins. Like, Martin strikes me as that kind of guy. The problem here is everyone sees the size and the point totals and just assumes his game is heavy forechecking with a good dose of finishing ability. The problem there is he's not a Tkachuk or Wilson. Like, that's just not how he approaches the game. And he's not a direct comparison, at least. Like, the physicality is there, and he's going to command a lot of attention in the offensive zone. His size will allow him to make room where other players can't, particularly at the net front. But his skating grade's pretty lowly with most scouts. Once he gets going, he looks good, but his acceleration isn't graded highly. His edge work isn't graded all that highly. The power forwards in the league that typically, really set themselves apart, something you'd be expecting out of a top 10 pick, are guys that can mix that skating ability with size, strength, tenacity, physical presence, and it doesn't feel like he has the skating ability to match that. I am also dubious of any player getting chosen in the top 10 who doesn't grade out as a really good skater at least. Again, this guy's NHL quality. Like, there's no pushback on that. But I worry when players don't have highly graded skating. I think that's usually what can set you apart easiest in the league. But let's be fair, that's really the only knock you can have on him. His physical abilities mixed with his on-puck offensive ability results in a player that's near impossible to take the puck off of his stick. And he's a guy who can beat a player one-on-one once he has a little bit of open ice, or rip the puck away from them on the wall. The guy is going to create more chances for your team. Absolutely. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around that. I'm just not so sure that he's going to be a guy in the long term who's on your top line. Somebody that you would pick in the top 10. I think his ceiling might be more of a middle six guy who plays an impact role. A guy you like having on your team. He's not who I'm going to jump to as far as a top 10 pick goes. All that being said, I bet Sweeney loves this guy. I bet he loves him. And like I said, I'm a big skating and hockey IQ over everything kind of guy. Actually swap those, hockey IQ and skating over everything else. And Martin has half of that. I just worry about his true ceiling. The next option for us at number 8 on our list, or number 5 after the top 3, Brady Martin. He's a righty, center, 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, 18 years old. Could he go number 3? I've seen it projected. Or will he be outside the top 10? I've also seen that projected. I've seen him as low as 16 on some boards. I legitimately don't know with this guy at all. He's gained a lot of traction, then he lost some, then he gained a bunch again. I don't know. My guess is he's on a 2 or 3 teams draft boards as like a top 6 or 7 guy. And everyone else kind of has him outside the top 10. Like, he feels like a guy who specifically fits for some teams. He had 33 goals, 39 assists, and 57 games played in the OHL. 3, 8, and 11, 3 goals, 8 assists in 7 games with the World Junior Under-18s. The name you're going to hear with him a lot is Sam Bennett as a comparison. Yeah, his skating and playmaking are fine. But he's a high-end puck handler who can beat defenders 1v1 while demolishing opponents on the boards and in open ice. And it's not like his size is impressive or anything like that, but he plays about 5 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier. Honestly, I think Sam Bennett's Conn Smythe run here did more for Brady's stock than his own damn play, which is kind of funny. You can actually kind of see him as an opposite to Haggins, at least how they approach the game, because Haggins wants to survey the landscape and push the play from the outside, whereas Martin doesn't want to give you that time to breathe. In fact, you breathing is probably one of the things he dislikes the most. He will quickly become one of the most annoying players to play against in the NHL. His forechecking is relentless. He spends a lot of time trading blows in high danger areas. He is constantly chasing the puck. Like, he's a dogged player to work around. He's always going to try to get involved in everything. What does bother me about him, though, is he feels like the middle schooler who like never stops chasing the puck, where he's just like straight lining it to that guy and not looking at the play as a whole. He's just like, I'm gonna fuck you up, I'm gonna fuck you up, I'm gonna fuck you, which is fine, but I don't see a lot. I see people being able to take advantage of that. It feels like a guy who's gonna get caught out of position somewhat frequently until he learns to calm some of that down. He doesn't project to be a top liner, I don't think. But there are teams that will value him as a potential heart and soul of the franchise kind of guy. There will be better options at 7, in my opinion. But somebody's going to value this guy hugely and feel very lucky that he fell to them, because I have a hard time seeing him go in the top 10. But people keep bringing him up. I don't know. Maybe I just don't see it. Number 9, Anton Fondell. Lefty. Center, 6'1", 200 pounds, 18 years old. 11 goals, 14 assists, 25 points in 29 games played in the SHL this year. Did deal with some injuries throughout. He's going to be a player that was... we're about to talk about 2 of these, actually, in the SHL. They're going to point out the fact that he was playing against men, right? And he held his own. This will be him, and there's a player right after this that also from the Swedish league. Fondell has an absolutely nasty shot. By far his best attribute. He has a shot right now that can beat NHL goaltenders cleanly. He has a strong motor and is pretty solid with the puck on his stick. I wouldn't say he's clever or creative. More of a straightforward, get to some open ice and shoot that shit option. He certainly has the ability to misdirect defenders and gets out of jams in the offensive zone that you would typically think would have died, but he has a tendency to keep plays alive that you like. But my problem with Fondell is he feels like a highly skilled complementary piece, not a guy who drives a line offensively. Picking in the top 10, I want to walk away with a guy who improves the players around him, who builds up that line, and you can kind of slot in with a bunch of different players, and he's still going to have his impact because he can drive a line like that. Fondell strikes me more as a player who is waiting for his opportunity and benefits most when they have somebody who can feed them the puck in the right moment so that they can unleash that shot, unleash that offensive ability. Don't get me wrong. This guy is a pure finisher and something every team should want. But as far as on-ice impact goes, I don't think he fits what the Bruins need right now, especially when you're picking in the top 10. I would hope for someone who's more of a line driver than Fondell. And lastly, Victor Eklund, right wing, 5'11", 180 pounds, 18 years old. 19 goals, 12 assists for 31 points in 42 games played in the SHL. I am very weary of the Bruins going after Eklund, and not because he's a winger or because he's small or anything like that. First and foremost, Eklund is a dog. A dog! His motor is never ending. Truly leaves it all on the ice every shift. He's a strong skater, and especially impressive in tight areas. He's winning puck battles along the wall. He's winning puck battles in open ice. He leverages under bigger players well. He doesn't back down to anyone, despite his size. And he has a good shot, a good NHL shot that seems like it would translate well. A lot to like. And people will, again, point out that he plays against grown men in the Swedish league. Now, this is a weird point for me, because I've watched a lot of his highlights and tape at this point, because everything I'm hearing is so positive about this guy, but I've seen him projected as high as 4 and as far back as, somewhere in the mid-teens. I can't remember the number. When I watch him, I have no doubt that Eklund will be an impact guy at the NHL level. His floor is a third-line motor guy to me with some offensive talent. And his ceiling is, of course, a top liner who is just a huge pain in the ass to play against because he's always going. But while watching his actual play, it felt like the large majority of his impact offensively was built on plays that are going to get quickly snuffed out at the next level, which is weird to say because we just talked about how he's playing against grown men. He's playing against grown men when he's 17 years old, now 18 years old, and he's beating these guys, grown men. But that's not going to translate to the NHL. A lot of his skill and his ability, while I'm watching, is he's going around players, just going right around them, flying out there, right? He kind of squeezes his way from the boards, takes the puck out. Like, he does well with these things. But I watch these plays and I'm like, God, how did you let that happen? Over and over and over again. I'm like, how did you let that happen? I'm looking at the hips. I'm looking at the stick. I'm looking at the puck. I'm like, where is the movement? Is his head moving? Are you falling for a fake? There's not motion there. Sometimes there is. Don't get me wrong. But, like, there's nothing immediately telling me that this defenseman's falling for something. He's just getting beat. He's just getting walked. And even if Eklund's a great skater, it's just not going to translate at the NHL level to be able to just walk by guys and get these wide open chances left and right. A lot of his offensive impact to me were him just being, faster than the players around him. But he's not McDavid. He's not going to be able to do that at the NHL level. This is a weird criticism because, again, he played men. He has good vision, good speed. I just don't see it translating, especially at his size, to being able to just go around defenders. He's going to get knocked on his ass a lot. A lot. He's 160 pounds right now. Like, I know we don't like to do the whole small guy gross kind of stuff, but that's not good enough. That's not big enough to be able to just skate while making contact with the defenseman and just go around him, then you have your breakaway. That guy's just going to knock you over. I don't know. I'm very dubious of Eklund going top 10. Because I have a really hard time seeing him have the balance, have the physicality needed to do the same exact plays that he's doing now, but at the next level. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And I might be kind of on an island there. I just really worry about him as a pick. So again, to recap, I do not think Schaefer, Misa, or Denoie will be available for the Bruins. I am hoping for Haggins, McQueen, or O'Brien. That's really my hope there. And then Martin, Fondell, and Eklund kind of bring up the rear on that. Past that, I think there's a significant drop in talent in general, especially for like the forward groups who we're mostly talking about. I didn't include any of the defensemen because there's not a lot of projected to go in the top 10, but I have a hard time seeing the Bruins grab anything like that. We were gonna, I forgot to say this. I was gonna say don't draft for need. There is a need literally everywhere for the Bruins right now. I expect them to take a center, but if they love a winger or defenseman, you just go get the guy. But the way this draft has worked out and the talent at the top, I think a center is a pretty obvious pick here. I doubt they fall in love with a winger to the point that they would rather take them over a center that's available. There's not enough wingers that are that much better or even really better than the centers that will be available at that pick. So that's kind of where I sit. Let me know your thoughts below. Let me know who you would prefer we take, and then I look forward, of course, to the live stream on the day that the draft happens, which is soon. I don't remember what day it is, but I'll look it up after this. Go Bees! Go Bees!